Hey, what's going on, Dave? What's your take today?
I had a question. You think the Supreme Court made the right decision?
In part, yes. In other part, no. The Supreme Court doesn't have like the ability to set up an infrastructure for states to remove people from the ballot, right? That would be like extensive and weird. I don't think that states should have the ability just to arbitrarily remove someone, or not even arbitrarily, but to their own standards remove someone, because there can be variable standards throughout the United States. That being said, they basically go on to render Section 3 of the 14th Amendment completely useless. And basically by saying that Congress has to enact legislation, which doesn't make any sense for a number of different reasons, but it's effectively it renders Section 3 useless. So in that instance, no, they're wrong. I think that they should have said, well, if they're going to remove him, it has to go through the circuits, it has to go through federal court, whatever, some standard that they have to establish, but they just rendered it completely useless. So even if Donald Trump is convicted of insurrection, it wouldn't remove him.
All things considered, just a yes or no question. All things considered, do you think they made the right decision? Just a yes or no.
I can't answer. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to make a blanket statement. That's not me. I'm not doing that. I just gave you a breakdown. All right, I just gave you a breakdown to the part that I believe is the correct one, which is Colorado, the overturning of Colorado's decision. But I'm not going to say that it was overall a good thing. I'm going to analyze it based on the merits.
So that sounds more like a no. That they
I don't
didn't
know what the fuck is not coming through. Is there an echo in here? Dave, you were not on my nerves for the longest time. And today, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? I've just told you that in part it was right and in part it was wrong. And four of the justices agree with me on that, including Amy Coney Barrett, that Section 5 should not have been used to render Section 3 useless. The other judges argue that they should have only addressed whether or not Colorado can remove him and not address any forward-looking things in regards to removal from ballot, which they did, and they shouldn't have.
How are they going to remove him when there's no, in the very first place, when he has not been convicted of insurrection?
Well, you don't need to be convicted. You don't need to be convicted, according to Section 3.
You just need to be accused?
No. You have to go through due process, which in every other instance has involved going through civil court, and a civil court determining whether or not you did.
All right. Was a civil court determine that he was involved in insurrection?
Yes.
Which one?
The Colorado.
So the Colorado Civil Court had a hearing and said that they agreed.
No, they had a trial. They had a trial.
Okay, they had a trial, and when the trial, they tried Trump, and he was found guilty of insurrection.
He was found to have been liable and responsible for insurrection, of which he's going to be fielding a lot more lawsuits for his involvement in January 6th, because the courts ruled that they could.
What type of lawsuits?
Well, he did see it, incited an insurrection, harmed a lot of people. Those people have injuries. They have damages both to psyche and to their physical well-being. And they're suing. They're suing, alleging he had responsibility for January 6th.
So anybody that was there can sue him because they say, okay, well, I had emotional and mental distress. If I was there,
potentially, if you were on the receiving end of that, potentially, yeah.
I'm not talking about receiving. I'm just talking about that all of a sudden I'm there and there's an insurrection.
If you were one of the insurrectionists, the answer to that is no. If you were in the Capitol and feared for your life or were hurt, yes. Yeah, you could sue. That's how damages work.
Well, I know how damages work. I'm just talking about as far as me being damaged just because I was there and all of a sudden an insurrection occurred and it freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, you could sue.
Could I not sue him for mental anguish?
Yep. You could sue him. And the same thing that those people in the Boeing plane where the door flew off, they can sue.
Yeah.
Even though they just happened to be there that day.
So he's probably going to have thousands of lawsuits.
Maybe.
Probably.
Well, I mean, if I was a person that, wanted to sue, or if I was really
I would say that it probably wouldn't be thousands. The court would probably make them conjoin it into a class action, or, conjoin it because there's the similar set of facts. They would probably make everybody conjoin it. Were you there that day? All right, let's determine damages of everyone and cash them out.
That makes sense from knowing what I know about law and mental deficiencies and mental damage, and I just know a whole lot about through being in recovery and PTSD, grief, all that. I can see where if somebody was there with not a real strong psyche and all that shit occurred, that I could go and say, look, I'm fucked up. Especially, I just wonder how many people have, from being there involved in it, how many people are actually having to have therapy from it fucking them.
Lots. Some cops have been alive.
Do what?
Yeah,
Some
I would
cops
say a
have
lot.
been alive because of it.
Yeah, some cops have unaligned themselves because of it.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I'm just talking about this.
You got to
General
think. I mean, you got to
population.
think, right? Michael Fanone, he was tased in the back of the neck. Some guy yelled, "Unalive him with his own gun." They tried to take his gun from him. He begged for his life, and he had some Trump supporter help him, and then a couple more did, but not the ones that were tasing him in the back of the neck, giving him a heart attack. That guy got 20 years. Yeah, he could sue. He had a heart attack. He's not working anymore. Yeah, he could sue.
What do you think the possibilities are of that Trump actually ends up running?
He is running.
Well,
That he
I
makes it all
know
the way
that.
there?
I'm saying that he makes it all the way.
I think it's 100% now. After the Colorado ruling, I think it's 100%. I think he's gonna go the distance. I don't think it'll go well for him, but I think he'll go the distance.
What do you think, that he may be in jail and still?
Barring a McChicken clog in his left artery, is he'll run.
Do you think he'll be imprisoned and still run? Do you think all these 91 charges that he's going to be in jail by the time the election happens?
I don't. No, I don't think that he's going to go to jail by the time the election happens. I thought that was a possibility if the January 6th case happened when it was supposed to happen in March. That's not a possibility anymore. They're not going to give him jail time right up next to the election. However, if he does, they may schedule it out, like sentencing out. If he doesn't win the election, which I suspect he won't, then he's probably going to flee to Moscow because they're going to try him. Like
Try him for what?
Yeah. Well, the January 6th case will be coming down. The documents case will be coming down. The Georgia case will be coming down. The Georgia case, if I'm Trump, that's the one I'm scared about because there's no getting away from that. But he also hasn't showed remorse in any of the other cases. So if I'm a judge in that instance, I think I just throw the book at him.
Well, tell me why you think that on the Georgia.
Because it's a RICO case. There's nothing he can do. If he's convicted on RICO, he goes to prison for 5 years minimum. If he's convicted in Georgia, he can't be paroled. He has to serve 5-year minimum because it goes through a committee. Kemp said he wouldn't pardon him anyways. The committee can't pardon him. They have standards. He has to admit publicly and in writing that he did the crime. And yeah, he gets a mandatory 5-year minimum. And that has to be served at a state penitentiary. That's statutorily. He can't go home and serve it at home.
What was the actual charge?
For January
RICO.
6th?
The thing is,
in
he
Georgia.
conspired to overthrow the Georgia election.
Same as the big insurrection?
So he was charged for January 6th for stopping the certification. Georgia has charged him under his law for conspiracy to overthrow the Georgia election.
Explain more
Like, that's
about
it.
that.
So RICO is you have to have like an enterprise, right? And that enterprise has to be doing some illegal means, something illegal, something that qualifies as a RICO crime, right? Which trying to stop the certification, intimidating officials. There's crimes that he's committed that make this an enterprise under Georgia's law. It essentially means you're conspiring to do this illegal act, and that's what they're alleging he did.
So as far as is that charge just going through Georgia, did he do something separate in Georgia as opposed to Washington?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
So, well, he did Georgia specific things. He also did Washington specific things, like federal specific things. So in Georgia,
Right.
they did things. His enterprise did things like forge documents and attempt to pass off a fake slate of electors. So they also intimidated officials in numerous different ways. Donald Trump called up and told Raffensperger to give him 11,000. I just need 11,000. That one's going to be a matter of debate and what the jury believes, but I think that it's pretty clear and concise threatening.
When do you think? When's all that going down?
So the trial, I was wrong the other day. The trial's scheduled for August, but it's probably not going to happen in August.
Why not?
Because federal takes precedent, so federal goes first. Eileen Cannon, the judge out of Florida, has continually postponed the trial and the stuff that's supposed to happen in regards to the classified documents and like ensuring that those are handled with care when they're doing the discussion for, it's called SEPA, when they're doing the discussion with lawyers, and what can be presented at court, what can't. But she has basically stonewalled the case, and it looks like, well, they have it set for May. That's not going to happen. So, but she might try and steal a date in August, so it doesn't happen.
So you just don't think that nothing's going to happen by the time the election goes down?
No, he has the New York. He has the New
Stormy
York
Daniels case.
trial coming up. The Stormy Daniels case coming up on the 25th. They start jury selection.
And what could be the worst outcome of that
He lands a
34
conviction.
felony counts.
with her?
34 felony counts.
Okay, so what you're saying, you don't think that he could be found guilty, so you don't think all that'll go down before the trial? You said it's just getting ready to start, right?
No, so yeah, it's going to start on March 25th. It'll take about 8 trial weeks.
And like I said, what is the worst outcome that can happen in 8 weeks?
So he's not going to get sentenced to prison because he's a former president. If this was somebody else, he would be. But because it's him, I don't expect him to get prison time. He will get 34 felony counts, though.
Convicted of all of them?
I mean,
Maybe not all of them.
so I don't know which way the jury's going to go, but I would expect, being that the Manhattan prosecutor's office has some of the best lawyers in the country and they charge this specific crime more than anything else, I think Donald Trump's pretty screwed.
What all did they really charge him with? Like, what's the major ones?
No, it's 34 separate counts of falsifying business records. They're felony counts.
Just to hide the money he paid her?
Yep.
And you think that at least some of them he'll be found guilty and probation? Or
Probably community service and a suspended sentence.
So Trump's going to be out there fucking picking up trash on the highway?
Maybe.
You know, they'll probably he can make up some community service thing and just bullshit it like he always does. I mean, if he falsified business records, I don't think he has a problem falsifying community service records.
Yeah, that's true. As far as like everybody that's decided right now who they're going to vote for, do you think any of this legal shit that's going to go on until November would flip somebody's vote?
Yeah, him being convicted would absolutely ruin the election for him. 50% of Republicans said they won't vote for a felon. And even if 45% of them end up doing that, that 5% will flip the election in any state.
So basically he's fucked. Unless he's found on these 30. If he's found guilty on any of these 34 charges, felony charges, he's fucked, you think?
For the
Yeah,
election?
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to know until we get closer to the election, but I would suspect that 34 felony counts would probably,
Now, you said how many Republicans wouldn't vote for a felon? What was that fact you
about
said?
49 or 50%, somewhere in there, depending on the poll. Now, do I think that all of them are going to ditch Trump? No, but I think enough of them will.
When the polls right
And
now,
like I said, we won't know, but at the moment it drops, the next week or two, I'm going to be hawking the polls to see how much it swung. But when that does drop, I mean, you got to remember, like, when we're talking about the election and why Donald Trump is screwed, right? It's because there's so many obstacles in his way. He's already beat a couple of the obstacles, right? And which were big ones, right? The Colorado case, he beat that obstacle. He beat the obstacle for the January 6th case. That may still happen before the election, but it might happen right up next to the election. The Fani Willis case is not going to matter. He can get her removed, but even if he did, which I don't know how that's going to go, but even if he did get her removed, somebody else will pick up the case. He has a problem of fundraising. Nobody wants to give him money to pay off his debts, and that's especially true right now because he cannot has not come up with the $83.3 million to put in the bond for the E. Jean Carroll case. He also, there's no way he's going to come up with $560 million to stop Letitia James from seizing his shit. And so nobody wants to give him money. And even the RNC made the mistake of giving their money to Donald Trump and his legal fees. So now nobody wants to donate to them because the dude has tens of millions of dollars in legal fees last year. So they don't want their money going there. They have the lowest amount of top dollar donors, like high level donors, above $100,000, I think is the cutoff, since the 90s. They have the least cash on hand since 2014. Joe Biden is holding more than double cash on hand than Trump is. And the DNC and Biden combined hold almost double the money that the RNC and Trump is holding. So as we go into the election, we're going to watch a ton of money flowing on the Biden side, not so much for Trump because he's going to be doing legal battles for the next year. And you're going to watch the Democrats target states with brutal campaigns. There will be absolutely devastating campaigns. I will tell you right now, Donald Trump bragging about ending Roe v. Wade, they're going to slam him on that. That's going to be running across the nation for weeks on end until people are sick of it and just hate his guts. So they'll make sure that everybody hears that. And yeah, I don't think that it's going to go well for him.
Yeah, I can't believe he's gotten this far, truthfully.
I thought, they had the Republicans, the conservatives had a number of off ramps. The Colorado case was an off ramp. They didn't take it. They didn't find a way to take it. And I don't think they were ever going to find a way to take it because they wanted 9-0. And Clarence Thomas and Alito were not going to go 9-0, for something else.